What's up? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph. Steph, happy Thursday. What's up? How you
Happy
doing?
Thursday. Man, we're getting close. It's starting to feel real here. The butterflies every once in a while will start building up. Thinking about this game, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's been an exciting week. Exciting week for you, exciting week for us as faithful. Exciting week for a lot of our players, especially the ones that have been are in the Super Bowl for the first time, especially. So yeah, it's a good week. We're going to get into all of that. Chat, what's up? Hope everybody is doing fabulous. Yeah, hope the week is going great for all of you guys as well. Um, I'm ready for our team to play. It seems like it's taking forever for this game to get here. And
Right?
I'm ready for them to just play and get the win. But at the same time, I'm like so sad that the football season's about to be over. Like, I swear that it seems like this football season went by so fast. And
hmm
we're playing longer than any other teams, it's like longer for us, but still seems so fast. So for that reason, I don't want it to like become, I don't want it to be Sundays because I want to keep watching football. Like, what am I supposed to do for the next how many ever months, Like, man, like I have a basketball team, like I watch hockey, but football and the 49ers, that's my number one love. So
Yeah,
when it's not football season, I'm sad.
I should feel
Um,
the same.
so and to think that when we were just talking backstage that it's only been a week since our last show. It's actually been shorter because we did our show last week on a Friday.
That's true. Yeah.
So last week, we when we did our show, it had just been broke earlier that day when John Lynch did his press conference and brought you up in the press conference. So during our show last week, we were so excited about that. We talked about that, the chat, nonstop talking about it. Everybody's super excited for you. Well, since then, a lot has happened for you. That was just the beginning of what I'm sure has been a crazy week for you. Kind of talk to us. Tell us about everything that's been going on. Obviously, for those that don't know, maybe still people don't know, something happened with Bosa. Something happened with Good Morning Football. Go talk to us. Let us know everything that's happened and how your week has been going for you.
So yeah, the John Lynch thing happened last week, and that was already cool on its own. Um, you know, just him mentioning me, I guess it got a lot of like eyes on my Twitter and Instagram, and I gained like a bunch of followers and whatnot. Um, and I had a feeling that someone would ask Nick, because there's a lot of media availability leading up to the
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl, and given that John Lynch had just, mentioned me, I did have an inkling that someone would ask him. But yeah, it was the first day, opening night of the media. You were there, Miriah, and it looked awesome to be
Mm-hmm.
there. There were a ton of 49er fans, but Nick was asked about it. Shout out Leo for asking the question. And yeah, he said he's heard of or he's
Oh, it
seen the
was
videos
Leo.
before.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Leo. He's seen the videos before. He said I got him so good that it kind of annoys him. So I was like, I guess that's a good thing. Like if he's gonna be annoyed by it, I want it to be because it's so good, right? And yeah, I mean it's been crazy since then. Peter, uh, Pete Scraggs, or Scragg, I don't know how to his last name, but or Skaggs. He started following me actually yesterday on Twitter, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, "Oh, that's cool," but he follows like over 1,000 people or something. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Okay, like I'm just another person that he follows. Probably heard about the impersonation." I didn't think he was gonna bring it up on Good Morning Football, but as soon as I woke up, mind you, I woke up at 6:30 Mountain Time, right? So that's pretty freaking early. I already have like notifications of like Steph, like you're not gonna believe this. They just mentioned you on Good Morning Football, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like it just it was thing after thing this week, and just like the last week and a half, it's been absolutely nuts. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Actually, it's been cool though to have this happen, I guess, leading up to the Super Bowl. I just filmed my last Nick Bosa speech of the season, kind of bittersweet moment, given what's happened in the last week. And this is the last one probably for a while. So,
well,
yeah.
what if we win the Super Bowl? Is this going out before the Super Bowl or after?
Yeah, it's going out before the Super Bowl because
so what if we win the Super
he
Bowl?
does his speeches before the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's the last like pregame, speech. I suppose like if they do win the Super Bowl, there will be more Nick Bosa videos, and that'll be great because then I can,
there you go.
Milk it a little.
And as it's mentioned here, you reached 3K subscribers, so shout out to you for that.
Let's go.
It's been an awesome week for you. It's so deserving. I'm so proud of everything that you're doing. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm just proud of you all around. But like you had said backstage before we started, if the 49ers win the Super Bowl Sunday, that's going to be the topping of this great week for you. It's going to make it, finish it off wonderful. However, if the 49ers fail to accomplish that, it's going to be kind of bittersweet, you said, right? So
yeah,
how's that going to work?
I mean, I guess we'll find out. And I don't know. For some reason, all of this happening makes me feel like the 49ers. Like, I know I have no correlation with the 49ers, but there's just so many good vibes. Like, first it was like the Ladybug thing, which like we've all experienced. A lot of different fans have experienced their own like, situation when finding, ladybugs. And I was like, man, right? Like that's very coincidental. That feels like something in the air, just something special. And then all this happened, just the timing of everything. I feel like everything happens for a reason. So I'm like, it makes me feel good about the 49ers chances on Sunday.
Yeah, I saw, people posting on Twitter, X, whatever, pictures of that, they're out and see a ladybug and they're like, I can't even remember the last time I saw a ladybug, and right. They're like, I'm going to do this, whatever they're doing. And all of a sudden there's a ladybug there. And it's just like such a weird coincidence, that happened faithful. And I'm sure other fans, everybody across the United States, wherever there's ladybugs, are finding ladybugs, but they're not posting them online for us all to see and it meaning something, right? So, but you never know. Maybe it's just the faithful. I haven't found any ladybugs. However, I've been looking because I'm like, I need to find my damn ladybug. Where are you?
You gotta look. It's out there. They're out there.
I see a lot of more people joining the chat. What's up, wonderfuls? I hope you guys are all doing great. Happy Thursday to all of you. Gammon. A bunch of men are going to get ladybug tattoos if the 49ers win the Super Bowl.
Ain't no shame in it. There's no shame.
Me and Steph are going to get ladybug tattoos too if we win the Super Bowl. So
I mean,
I know like Rick Diaz, he's going to get a ladybug tattoo on his butt. He told me so. On his butt cheek.
I mean, even me getting a ladybug tattoo is like out of the ordinary for me. Like I would never get like a ladybug, if it weren't for this connection. I'm like, yeah, that's perfect 49ers tattoo. I get a manicure, every couple weeks, and it's mostly because I bite my nails, so it's just a way of me not bite my nails. I usually just get clear polish, But the ladies at the nail salon, they're showing me the new spring line of like the nail colors, and this one was like, I don't know if you guys could see it. You probably can't. It's very, very subtle.
Yeah,
but it's like a gold shimmer.
Yeah,
and I was like, shimmery. Oh, you my team's in the Super Bowl. I'm going to Vegas. I'm gonna do it. So this is probably like the first time that I've like gotten actual polish. So we're just doing all types of crazy things for the 49ers right now.
Matthew says, I shit you not, after the ladybug, me and my roommate started seeing them in the house. Oh, wow. And found a few hundred in one of the high windows in our house. This is no lie. I'll even send pictures to prove. Nah, that's crazy. A few hundred ladybugs. That's kind of freaky. What are they doing in there? Why are they in there?
That's too much. That's kind of scary, actually.
Like, did they like have I don't know how they nest or
they infiltrated.
Seems like they would have, they had babies. You're having ladybug babies in there.
Yeah, like you might need to call an exterminator.
Don says, I have my ladybug tattoo picked out. Miss Debbie, hi Miss Debbie, says, me too. I've already laid out my tattoo design combined with my top hat. Oh, that's awesome.
That's really cute.
All we need now. Look, the faithful are ready. We're ready for this
win. Saying.
We just need the freaking 49ers to handle their part, take care of business.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So before we get, into the game, there's some other things going on to talk about. Like you mentioned, the first night of Super Bowl opening night was amazing, was awesome. There was a tons of faithful there, like crazy. And I know, like in the videos, you can hear, the cheers for our guys, the boos for their guys and whatnot. But that, like those, I haven't seen that one video yet that does it justice to how it actually sounded in the place. Like really? The boos were crazy loud. And when, like, you didn't even realize how many faithful were in the place because everybody's wearing red. The lights are down low in there. So, it's pretty dark. So you couldn't tell, anyway. So at first, just the Chiefs players came out, so there's some cheers, whatnot. And then it wasn't till the captains from both teams met that you started hearing the cheers for our guys. And because that was the first, time that the 49ers players had even been seen. And then you started hearing the boos for their players. And it's like, okay, yeah, the faithful have taken over this place. And it's such a crazy thing to me that the only people I hear that are rooting for the 49ers, of course, there's going to be, stragglers. It's not going to apply to everybody, but for the most part, the only people I hear the fan base rooting for the 49ers is the Raiders. I never thought I'd actually hear a time where the Raiders are on the 49ers side of anything. However, it seems like the fans of every other team, like, are hating the 49ers. Like, I don't know what's going on. But I was talking my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he's a Raiders fan. And so he had texted me the other day and was like, please kick their ass. And I'm like, why is it that the Raiders, are going on the 49ers side? I'm like, I understand, like, that's your, in your division and whatnot. But like the 49ers and Raiders have a long history of hating each other, And he said, he's like, yeah, like their division rivals. He's like, but hold on. He's like, but I don't want Kansas City like becoming a dynasty in our own stadium. Like, he's like, if they win this Super Bowl and they become a dynasty and that happens in my stadium, he's like, like I'm never going to be able to live that down. And I'm like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Like, I get it. I get it. So yeah, the Raiders fans, like I said all that to say that, there were a bunch of Raiders fans there as well, obviously. And they were all cheering for the 49ers players and booing the Kansas City Chiefs players too. So it was very interesting, very fun. But there were definitely a lot of crazy questions in the media. There were some great questions as well. What And so before we get into the questions, let's talk about Kyle first. So Kyle, I didn't have any idea that anything was being said about Kyle online because I'm there, right? And
Right.
what you had to do is like when you opened, like you had to log into an app, and they had 10 players sitting at podiums, right? So they're numbered, and in the app you had to click on one of the players to listen to their press conference. So you can only listen to one person at a time, but they're all there for an hour straight, all at the same hour, right? So like you could go to Kyle, but then you can't listen to the other 9 people, right? So I wasn't listening to Kyle. So I didn't know how he started his press conference, how he sounded, nothing about anything to do with his press conference. So as I'm leaving, it's like walking out of the stadium to the casino where I parked. I'm like having to walk there. So as I'm walking, I'm reading Twitter, catching up on stuff. And that's when I start seeing like everybody's talking about, oh, I don't want my head coach being drunk and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I see all this, like my group chats like are blowing up where I can't believe people are mad at grown adults for being like having drinks and like all this like reactions from both sides. And I'm like, what is going on? So then I listened to the video and I'm like, okay, like that was the very first questions that he got. And he's kind of like stumbling on his words a little, kind of slurring a little bit. But then after that, he seemed kind of fine talking. I did notice that he was happier. He was actually answering questions. I find it funny that, people normally their biggest bitch and complain about Kyle is that, oh, he don't want to answer questions. He's always grumpy. He's rude to the media. He's, snarky, like all this stuff that they say about. But then when he's happy and he's actually answering questions, and maybe even if he did have a couple drinks, who cares? They had a day off the next day. He's an adult. It's opening night of the Super Bowl, right? Like, I personally don't see a problem with it. But it's like, then people are mad at him for that too, So I feel either way, people are going to find something to complain about. But where are you at with the whole? Do you think Kyle was tipsy? Do you think he was just nervous with all the press? Do you think what's up with Kyle, and where do you stand with his adult activities?
I've heard Kyle Shanahan speak enough in to the media, in these pressers before to know that that wasn't his usual self, like to be fair, I haven't heard him in a casual conversation outside of speaking to the media, right? Like it's usually speaking to a member of the media. But he sounded like one of my buddies when he's drunk. Like in the same type of, I don't know, there's just something about it that literally reminded me of my friend. And yeah, he was definitely feeling good, but I have no issue with it. It's like, if he needed to let loose, man, let the man be loose. Like, if anything, we got better answers from him. I think the NFL Network interview was like the most obvious one. The other ones, like, I don't know if it was starting to creep up and it just got to that. It peaked at that one interview. It must have. But that was like the worst one. After that, you're right. Like he was fine. Before that, he sounded more or less normal. But I'll say this: like he sounded so excited to be talking about Brock Purdy, and those were genuine emotions, and we know it because he, if he had a few, then yeah, we know those are genuine emotions. And so I think it just confirms what we already knew. Kyle Shanahan loves Brock Purdy. And yeah, I think him being loose trickles down to the players. All of the guys who have been speaking to the media throughout this week have, been very loose and calm and down to earth. And it almost seems like with each day they were starting to get tired of like talking to the media. It is a little much, right? 3 days in a row, you have all these media sessions, and they're long media sessions.
Yeah.
but they've been awesome with it, including Kyle. So it's just a 1-day thing. If he was like drunk the next day or drunk any other day, then yeah, it might be a problem. Or if they were playing in like Cleveland and he's getting drunk, it's Vegas, all right?
Yeah.
It's Vegas, all right? So coach had a good time. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's like people act like, like grown adults don't go out and party on their weekends or whatever, and then are just
and you know
normal
what,
working
Miriah?
people during the week, right? Like,
you know what, Miriah? It's funny because I saw the people who I know for a fact drink. I know for a fact y'all get down and y'all be partying hard. But when Kyle Shanahan does it, it was an issue. Look, that's just an observation I made.
And people were making it seem like, it wasn't just like, oh, a couple of drinks. Like, I could see if he was there sitting at the presser and he's like falling over, drooling on himself, like, couldn't answer questions, like shit faced, like, okay, like if anything, it was a couple drinks and people are acting like the man has to go check himself into AA, like, I know Gavin just said that to be funny, but like, that's seriously how people were acting. Like, that's what we were saying in our group chat. Like, people are seriously all of a sudden acting like, oh my gosh, like Kyle showed up, tipsy, or, got tipsy there or whatever. Are acting like, oh, now he's a bad head coach. He's a horrible leader of the franchise. He has a drinking problem. He's a, bad influence. It's like, man, like really one, like to the extremes, man. like every time I see this stuff, I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. Like you really can't.
And also, like, he could be a lightweight. Maybe he's a lightweight. Maybe he barely even had anything to drink, but because he's a lightweight, like, it got to him quick, right? So, yeah, I have no issue with it. He seems like his normal self now, so that's is gone. Moments pass.
I do agree that the guys have been doing a great job answering questions. We know that some of the guys are shy where, they're normally don't open up too much to the media, but everybody I think from all of them that I've seen so far, like there's none that really stick out to me where I'm like, oh, that press conference didn't go well, or this player was, like standoffish, or like, like Debo's Debo. I'll say that, but other than that, it seemed like the guys, they're answering questions. Kittle, of course, like he's like made for this. I swear, him and Kelsey on the other side, I swear they're both the same when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like they're such showmen, like putting on a show for everything. But like I was saying before, is that there's been some crazy questions, a couple that stick out to me. The tattoo one, like I was really frustrated with that question because they literally, that guy, whoever it was, asked that question. Oh, if you're guaranteed a Super Bowl, would you get Brock Purdy's face tattooed on you? To every player that was doing a press conference on both sides, not just the 49ers, but on the Kansas City Chiefs, but with Mahomes' face. And it's like, you're asking grown men about getting another grown man's face tattooed on their body. And then what if they're like, no, then, oh, they don't want the quarterback's face on them. They don't like the quarterback, there's going to be some drama about it. Right. And it's just like, so what are they supposed to say? Like, Dre Greenlaw, when he answered, was the best answer I had seen, where he's like, that's weird, and then like stopped for a minute and was like, oh, I guess I shouldn't leave it at that answer, so he's like, yeah, I would, but yeah, so there's just been some crazy questions. What's some questions like maybe that you can remember? I mean, there's been a lot of press conferences maybe that stuck out to you, any players that you want to talk about, whether it's our side, Kansas City side, whoever, that, that press that you liked or didn't like, either way.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to share like the ones that I liked, because anytime that anyone who's out there asks a great question, and you get a great answer, it's like, oh, like that's awesome. I want to share that. And I tend to ignore the dumb ones. Maybe the dumbest was asking Brock Purdy how he felt about being compared to Henry Lee Oswald. Like, what?
Yes.
What? Why would he be okay with that comparison? Yeah. Okay.
Like, and how do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about being compared to a murderer, and not just a murderer of a president? It's like, and Brock Purdy's answer to it was great. Like, I did a show late last night with John V, and he kept playing the reaction. He had it on his phone and kept playing it on the show. And because Brock Purdy's just reaction to it was priceless, like perfect the way he did it. Like,
yeah. Yeah, but shout out to all the 49ers content creators, or just like journalists and everyone who's out there and asking the real questions. Shout out Brad, man. Like, I think he got the chance to ask pretty much every player a question at some point, and all of his questions were awesome. They were relevant to the player, and players appreciate that, especially when it comes to the same type of media session where you're getting dumb questions like the ones we just mentioned. So shout out to the people doing it the right way.
Yeah, real quick about Brad too is that like you said, you can tell that the players, they're starting to get worn out from the questions and whatnot, right? But all 3 days or whatever, all the press conferences that we've seen so far, you can tell the players are genuinely happy to see Brad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, some of these guys, like, they're not happy to be answering questions for. And yet when they see Brad, like, they could just be like sitting like this for like 10 minutes straight, and then all of a sudden Brad comes answering questions, they're like, hey, what up? Like, it's a familiar face. It's somebody that usually has their back, that's not getting on lives talking trash about them. It's somebody that they trust, and I think you can tell that, you can see that, like the way Brandon Ayuk, like, he's one of the ones that he's kind of shy, a little quiet, and even him just like, hey, what up, like so excited, and like that's awesome to see. So yeah, shout out to Brad. And I even said last night on our show that it seems like the 49ers content creators and that group, like, they're the ones that's asking the best questions out there. These guys that are getting paid all this money to be there. Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, seeing his reaction, Ayuk's reaction to Brad was cool. Ayuk was on Brad's channel, so he remembered him from that, and Brad, also just memorable because of the page that he runs. But you can see, yeah, that too. You can see Ayuk just kind of like relax, like, hey man, like it was an old friend. So like having those moments is awesome. Happy for him that he could have those moments. There's another instance where Theo Ash, I don't know if you guys follow him, but he covers the NFL, right? He's more of he's a smart dude. He knows his football stuff. And he asked Tashawn Gibson a question about his pass breakup, I believe, in the Lions game. And he referenced like a specific type of coverage, and Gibson gets so excited as soon as he hears him say it. And it's like, you get a different connection with players when you talk football, like actual football to them, and you prove like I'm a football person too. Like, I know, yeah, exactly. Because they don't always get that. So shout out to the all the people asking the good questions.
I agree. So I have some other things to talk about, but let's talk a little bit about the game, and then we'll go back depending on how much time we have. Oh, well, actually, before we do that, one more thing and he kind of, it's just been crazy. First, the 49ers and the field, right? Their field that they're on at UNLV has not been great. They said it's spongy. They've compared it to MetLife, which made me sick to my stomach when I heard. And it's because they waited till just a week ago to roll out the sod on top of UNLV's turf. And then it's pretty much rained here every single day since. So I think the NFL, Roger is a piece of shit for him to get that press conference and just be like, oh, the grass is fine, you know, it's safe for them. And instead of like actually trying to do something to make the situation right, no, he just like makes it just seem like the 49ers are whining about it. Shout out to the 49ers players and to Kyle, because they're taking the high road. They're not sitting there bitching about it. They're not the ones bringing it up. They've been asked about it constantly at these press conferences about how the field is and how the field is. How is the field today at practice? Like every player they're asking. And the players are like, it's fine. It's fine. We're making do. It's fine. Like they're not sitting there complaining about it. And then today the fire alarm at their hotel goes off. And they said this morning, and they had said that it went off for 10 minutes, but the players are saying it went off for like 16 to 18 minutes straight. So it's all this kind of weird, crazy shit happening to the 49ers. But what were your thoughts like on the whole grass situation?
I mean, it's a bad look for the NFL, but the NFL doesn't seem to care. I'm glad the NFLPA, spoke up about it because, I mean, as players, like the players can't be happy about it. Not just 49ers players. It should bother every player in the league, but because it could just as easily happen to them at some point because the NFL doesn't seem to prioritize uh these fields for whatever reason. I mean, we saw what happened in on the field last year in Arizona's that Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, it seems to be a trend at this point. And if you're a multi-billion-dollar company and you can't even get fields right, that's a big part of your product, having high quality fields. At least it should be, right? I would think at the very least for the
Yeah.
biggest game of the year, in any sport, that you would prioritize having a high quality field so that the players could put on a high quality product. If it is in fact an entertainment, well, the best way to entertain is to have both players playing on high quality surface.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's really unfortunate for the 49ers. It's not like I keep reminding people it's not like a conspiracy against the 49ers because this would be happening to any like of the NFC teams like if they got to this point, right?
Yeah.
It's not specific to the 49ers, but they're handling it in stride, at least publicly. And it's good because then if you're not making a big deal about it publicly or to your players, maybe you don't want it to be a distraction. That's what I didn't want to have happen, for the players to have to like think about it. And it seems like they're still thinking about it because they get asked about it every day. But yeah, I think I'm glad that they're taking the high road, but hopefully it gives them an extra chip on their shoulder come Sunday.
Yeah. Fire alarm, conspiracy or coincidence?
I mean, the fire alarm thing, that's so common. Like that happens, I feel like every year to at least one of the teams in the Super Bowl, right? So to me, that's a non-issue. It's annoying more than anything. I don't know if
Yeah.
it actually like if it was the morning of the game, then that could really take some guys off and really impact their sleep and maybe the preparation for the game. But it's Thursday morning. I'm not too worried about that.
I do remember like, because I feel like most of the times the players are staying somewhere, like we're not going to hear if the fire alarm went off at their hotel, right? But it seems like during the Super Bowl week, like we hear that a lot, that the fire alarm goes off at one of the team's hotels.
Yep.
So yeah, that is pretty interesting. But especially here in Vegas, that happens a lot. I mean, I've worked in the hotels for a lot of years. And it's more common than people think. So let's get into the game a little bit, and then like I said, we'll come back and talk about some other things to end the show. But kind of just heading into the game, like where up until this point, I kept telling you when we would do our predictions for the other playoffs that it's hard for me, like even against the Bills, when the Chiefs, were playing against the Bills, I told you, it's hard for me, and the Ravens, it's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs because of Mahomes and Andy Reid. Especially in the playoffs, because they, even though they had, a kind of up and down season, they get into the playoffs and shit just happens, like they could be playing crappy the whole game and Mahomes just pulls out some magic, Andy Reid calls up something and they make something happen, and I kept telling like until they prove that they're not the it team, like it's just hard for me to bet against them. Well, it is until they play my team, of course, because I have more confidence in my team this season. Maybe if this was 2019 team, I might be feeling a different way, but I'm just feeling a lot more confident in this team this season. Of course, we know these last two games took 20 years off my life. But it's shown me that, they'll come together, they can grit out the win, they're fighting, they want this. And like, I just, obviously Brock Purdy gives me a lot of confidence in this team. CMC gives me a lot of confidence in this team. Kind of where you at sitting here Thursday before the Super Bowl? How are you feeling? How's your nerves? How's your anxiousness? How is your confidence in the 49ers?
Hadn't really set in really until, maybe this morning a little bit, and I think about the game every once in a while, but there's just been so much discourse leading up to the game that I'm so anxious for it to just happen. Like, let's just get this game over with already. Because I'm tired of the discourse. Like, let's just settle this on the field, right? It's interesting because I was counting out the Chiefs in their previous two playoff games as well, against the Bills and the Ravens, and they made it happen. So really, at this point in the season, it isn't even about who's the best team on paper. It's about who plays the best for 60 minutes that given day, right? And that usually involves who has a better game plan, who has a better game or clock management in the game, right? There's so many factors than just who's better than who, and that's just the reality of it. So I think the 49ers know you can't count out this Chiefs team, man. And just seeing how 2019 went down, I think that was a good lesson for a lot of those guys, and they're going to be able to give that message to everyone else in the locker room who wasn't part of that team and be like, yo, we got to play 60 minutes, not 55, because you think you got the game, not 50, like all those things. I think it's a good lesson. It's good to have those experiences. And man, I mean, I'm confident in the team. Both teams are very different since the last time they met in the Super Bowl. I guess the biggest matchup is Steve Spagnuolo against Kyle Shanahan, and who's going to manage the clock better in the fourth quarter. That's what the game is going to come down to. So that I have confidence in the 49ers. I have confidence in Kyle Shanahan that he's grown this season, that he's learned from mistakes. So I'll say this too, because Judd York was on the Kay Adams show and he talked about how Deebo Samuel was at halftime and he told him, just tell Kyle to give me the ball. And what did Kyle do after halftime? He gave him the ball. So you have players who have a relationship with their coach and with other members of the team to feel confident enough to be like, hey, I'm gonna call my shot here, and he's done it before. He did it against the Cowboys in that one wild card game too a couple years back. And so those are the kind of guys that you have on this roster. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the same way. So I think if 2 weeks ago wasn't a lesson in knowing, I can trust a guy like Deebo Samuel in these moments. I don't have to steer away from the run. Even though we're down 17, we just have to move the ball and get a score here. And if that involves running Christian McCaffrey, if that involves running Deebo Samuel, you got to do it. So that's what I'm hoping that Kyle Shanahan kind of has learned and goes into this game knowing.
Yeah, you bring up Spags, and something I took away from listening to the defense talk on Kansas City's side throughout these press conferences is that they talk about Spags a lot. They talk about how, a lot of these guys have really close relationships with him. They talk about how he's like a father figure to them. And their big saying throughout the whole thing is, in Spags we trust. This is the best. You talked about, two completely different teams and last time we met. And yeah, the 49ers had the better defense, at that time when we met then. And, this is the best defense that Kansas City has had since Mahomes has been there. I was looking at this thing earlier, and their defensive ranks, they had 57 sacks, which was ranked second, 17.3 points per game allowed, ranked second, 289.8 total yards per game allowed, ranked second, 44.1 opponent punt percentage was third, and 176.5 pass yards per game allowed, that was fourth. So, I mean, their defense is playing great. It seems like, they're playing hard for Spags. And yeah, I know that they, like, I keep hearing that, that they like to run a lot of disguises and blitz a lot. And like, I just hope, the last aggressive defense that we played was the Ravens. And like, I just hope that whatever they could have taken away from the Ravens game and to like not do that same shit, to not make those same mistakes in this game. I hope that like whatever was going on with Brock in that game, that it just, please don't let it happen in this game. Please.
They were doing some things right. Obviously, the Ravens were in that game, but the 49ers had like 500 yards of offense as well.
Yeah.
So, the
we need our
49ers were
receivers
also
to let
doing some
balls
things
hit them
right.
in the hands and bounce up. And
There was like that
good shit.
game. I don't want to say the entire game was fluky. Like the Ravens,
No.
they have an awesome defense, and I think they had a great game plan against the offense. But there were just some things that happened, like nothing went right. Like sometimes you get some luck on your side. The 49ers didn't have any luck that day. So I don't know how the Super Bowl is going to play out, but I have to imagine, if I had to guess, it's not gonna be like that game. And if anything, like, yeah, they probably learned a thing or two from that, and I'm sure they can expect some of what the Ravens did, the Chiefs to try to do. And the thing about the Chiefs is, yeah, they're kind of unpredictable on any given play, right? The way they're gonna defend it and the different looks that they're gonna give Brock. They want to complicate his life as much as possible. But I think what was interesting about the advice that Brock Purdy got from Joe Montana is like, trust Kyle Shanahan, trust the game plan, continue to trust that. And also I'll say, take what the defense gives you. I think even Brock admitted, like in that game against the Ravens, he stopped doing that at a certain point, and he was just trying to make a big play. It's easy to panic and get into those, moments, but I think the fact that they've been there before, I don't see them panicking this time around. You also saw the Ravens when they played against the Chiefs, how the Ravens kind of panicked and stopped doing what has worked for them all season. And they kept going for the deep play. The Chiefs defense has allowed I don't remember the exact number, but they've been really good at limiting explosive pass plays, right? So you're not going to get a lot of shots downfield. Like, it's just not going to happen. So what
Right.
do? You take what the defense gives you. If that means a check down, you take it. If that means a 3-yard gain, 5-yard, you take it, because you just got to inch closer, and you can't get into a situation where you're in 3rd and longs against this defense, because then they could pin their ears back, really give you some issues. So they have to be comfortable with not panicking and just taking whatever they can, even if it's small, like incremental improvements and moving down the field.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be worried about taking the check down when your check down is CMC. Like, you should be comfortable with, okay, like, if my check down CMC, shit, I'm getting the ball to him as much as possible. Like,
it's not a bad check down.
Right. Let me ask you this. If next week we're talking and things don't go our way, we're talking about a 49ers loss because of what reason? If they lose this game, what happened?
Sorry, my cats are like about to they're about to fight. I'm just like waiting. So you're basically asking me, if they were to lose, what's the most likely reason that they would lose?
It's because they did what? Or they didn't do what?
They left too much time on the clock for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, and it's so much easier said than done, right? Like, so many teams know you can't leave time for Patrick Mahomes. The Bills left, like, what was it, 20 something seconds? I don't remember. And even that, like, that's all they needed. Like, really? So yeah, it's easier said than done. That clock management, like I said, in the 4th quarter is going to be huge. The game is going to be won or lost, I think, in the 4th quarter. We saw how it went down the last time these two teams played. I mean, both teams want it just as badly, and so it's not about effort. Everyone's going to be going all out in the 4th quarter. It's about who uses their time smarter. So yeah, it's going to be huge, and that's going to be the big test for Kyle Shanahan, right? Because that's been his, like, Achilles heel, much of his head coaching career. And so until he gets that monkey off his back, he's going to continue to get those questions, and like, people wondering if he could ever overcome those things. But I don't know. He's shown a lot of growth to me this year, and so I'm really hoping that this is the time that he really figures it out. 13 seconds. Technic Chic. 13 seconds? It was just 13 seconds? Yeah, I'd have thought I won the game too. But that just goes along.
I would have been so sick.
No, yeah, that's so I'm finding the nearest building in Vegas, man. But yeah, no, that's terrible. But you would think, like, 13 seconds, we're good. All right. We just gotta play defense. But then you forget that, like, you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, and it doesn't matter what defense is on the other side, he's gonna find a way. So really, you have to have the ball last. The 49ers have to have the ball last. That's it.
So Mahomes' receiving weapons have been kind of up and down this season. We know that they had a lot of drops. We know that his most reliable, his favorite target is still Travis Kelce. It seems like even us, when we play them, like, Mahomes is going to Travis, yet you could have 3 guys around him, and somehow he still gets the ball. Like, who do you think we have guarding Travis, and what do you think we're doing to stop Travis Kelce?
I don't think it's going to be just one guy. I think you have to play a tight zone around him. And you just got to be in play. I mean, he's going to get his, he's going to have a game. You just got to make sure it doesn't get too crazy. You can't let him then, like, break away for a bigger gain after contact, right? Like, you have to be able to bring him down right away. What I'm most worried about is anytime Patrick Mahomes scrambles or escapes the pocket, he's looking downfield, but he's going to make it look like he's going to scramble and run like by himself. But then he's going to throw. What you don't want is defenders coming down to like stop Patrick Mahomes, and then they leave Travis
Yeah.
Kelce open. So they need to float around him, even if Patrick Mahomes, escapes the pocket. And there needs to be like one defender or two, like maybe the safeties, I don't know, responsible for Mahomes when he does escape the pocket.
So are like Lenore on Travis and Charvarius on Rice, or what do you think we're doing?
I mean, which corner would defend him? That depends on where he lines up, right? Like who's most responsible for him. But if you're playing zone, I mean, there's going to be a number of guys who would be responsible for him. Basically, the entire defense, depending on where he goes, would be responsible for him, right? So that's why you always have to like pay attention to where he is on the field. I mean, it's easier said than done. I think the safeties have to make sure they stay over the top of him at all times. Like they're going to be the umbrella, that keeps anything becoming a bigger play than it needs to be.
Yeah, we're gonna probably need a big game from those safeties too. Melissa had asked us a great question on our show last night, and I'm going to now ask you that same question. We know that Mahomes is running some kind of little streak got going on where he hasn't thrown an interception. Let's say that streak that streak is coming to an end on Sunday. Who breaks that streak?
I think I would have to give it to one of the safeties, because I don't think Patrick Mahomes makes like an egregious mistake where he doesn't see the defender and like he throws it right to him, or a corner will try to jump the route. Like I don't know if I'm seeing that with Mahomes this time. I think I'm seeing like a deflection. Ball pops up in the air. A safety comes up and grabs it. So I'm thinking either Tashawn Gibson or Jair Brown, could do that in heads up moment.
Yep, I like it. I would love that for Jair Brown. Who did I say? I said Jair Brown, and I gave two. Who was the other one?
David in the comments says Fred Warner or Greenlaw. That's a good one.
Yeah, John V had said Fred Warner, I think. I would love that for him too. Yeah. I could see Fred, we need our big time players to make big time plays in these big time moments.
To play for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Score prediction, you ready?
Yeah, I had one earlier.
Good, I'm not.
I had one earlier in the week. Here's what I'll say. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. You think both of these, offenses, you're like, might be a high scoring, but no, I'm looking at these defenses. And I think even the 49ers defense is going to be able to step up in this one. So I'm going to go 23-21 49ers.
While I'm thinking about mine, if this game comes down to Jake Moody field goal, how confident are you as Jake Moody is lining up to kick that field goal?
I would probably not. Like, a lot of people are like, I can't watch this. I'm never that kind of person. But if Jake Moody had to go and kick like a game-winning potentially field goal, I don't think I could watch. Like, that's how nervous I'd be about that. Look, I'll say this: he was 4 of 4 when he kicked there in the Shrine Bowl at that Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah.
So he has reason to feel confident, but then it's a Super Bowl, and I don't know. That's a lot of there is no greater pressure for a kicker than literally that moment. So I wouldn't feel great about it.
I'm nervous. Like right now, I have butterflies in my stomach just thinking about that moment.
Yeah.
So I could just imagine how I'd be feeling in that moment.
Let's
Like,
not speak it into existence, all right? Let's just not let's not do it.
score prediction. I'm hoping, and we need this to happen. Like, we can't get behind like we did these last two games. Like, we
Yeah.
need these 49ers. I want to see this offense that was putting up 30 plus points, consecutive weeks over and over and over. Like, that's the offense I want to see coming out right from the gate. The opening drive, 7. Next drive, 7. Next drive, 7. Like,
Damn.
can't be, like, we can't be screwing around. This is Mahomes.
It's true. This is true.
And, we've heard, I think it was Lynch and Wilkes both talk about that we will not see the defense playing how they played with, not finishing plays and shit, whatever this nonsense that they were doing these last two games. John Lynch said we will not see that. So I'm guessing that the defense was spoken to about the way that they were playing and all that. So we need, 49ers defense to show up. Fred wants to keep talking about, oh, we just need, the 49ers offense to score 3 points. And where's that defense? That defense you want to keep telling us that's going to show up and hasn't. We need them to show up this game.
Yeah.
35-21.
Wow, that's big.
Screw Mahomes. Screw Andy Reid. And screw the little horse they rode in on. Look, 42-24. Bryant says.
Whew. I like your guys' confidence. I mean, yeah, if it turns out that way, yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Let's see what else the chat's saying. David Corona, 34-28. Don says 36-25.
Jesus.
McNiner, 24-21. Jake Moody field goal to win it.
Don't do that to me.
Hi, ladies. I'm on a plane to Vegas. Have a safe flight, Sin. Matt says 24-17. Okay.
Yes.
I don't really give a shit what the score is going to be as long as the 49ers win. We could win by 1 point. We could win by 10 points. We could win by 30 points. I want the 49ers to win. When the 49ers win, who's getting MVP?
Okay, so I've thought about this, right? And I can see a scenario in which it's Brock Purdy. I can see a scenario in which it's Christian McCaffrey. But the reason for each of those guys is different. So if Brock Purdy orchestrates a game-winning drive, it undoubtedly has to be him. Regardless of how he looked, even in the beginning of the game, it has to go to him. If CMC has like a big, touchdown score or something like that, and the 49ers don't necessarily need like a game-winning drive, I think it could go to Christian McCaffrey.
In no way does it go to a defensive person.
Typically, I think that's pretty rare. I mean, I think a defensive player would have to have the game of his life and one or more turnovers, I think.
Because who have we seen win on defense before? Vaughn.
I don't even remember most of the MVPs for most of the
remember.
Super Bowls,
like,
but
I hate that it's not like, I wish that it was just fairly done and not just, certain awards always just go to the quarterback, So whoever wins it, I hope that it's like they actually deserve it.
So who would you predict?
I mean, I would say CMC. I definitely could see that, but I could also see if it's a game where Debo needs to come in and take over. I could see
I can see that too
happening as well. Let's see. Say Debo has 150 yards and 2-3 touchdowns. him or CMC have a game like that, I think it's kind of hard to then give it to the quarterback.
Yeah. Screw it. Let's give it to Trent Williams.
Yeah.
He deserves it, man.
Trent Williams gets 2 touchdowns. if Fred Warner gets 2 pick sixes, he's gonna have to get MVP. Like, speaking of awards, we have NFL honors tonight. Let's talk about it a little bit, and then we'll get out of here. Oh, and as well, actually, before we get into NFL honors, I did want to talk about a couple other awards that went out that we found out about today. And that's for Brock and CMC. The first time ever 2 teammates have won both of these. FedEx Air Player of the Year and FedEx Ground Player of the Year to Brock and to CMC. The way that they, announced it to them, Juice's wife made them vests and, announced the news to them and gave them their vests, and FedEx, gave them both trophies and stuff. So it was very awesome. Both of those guys, and thinking about the 2 teams, the differences, between our team and the last time that we played Kansas City, the addition of those 2 guys, that's 2 players, but 2 huge players for this team, and 2 players that have meant so much for this team this season. And obviously we wouldn't be in the Super Bowl without either of those guys. They both had unbelievable seasons. For Brock to come out and play the way he did, label him whatever you want to label him, I don't give a shit. I label him a winner. I label him a leader. I label him a damn good quarterback of this team. And CMC, I mean, you could just go on for days and days and days about how wonderful of a player that he is, and like puts this team literally on his back and runs down the field game after game after game. And we need him to do it one more game. So touch on those 2 things real quick, and then we'll get into NFL honors.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 guys definitely deserve it for the types of seasons that they've had. It's incredible that it's the first time, one team has had both of those guys or 2 players on the same team win the award. So it just speaks to how good both of them have been in their own right this year. They definitely both deserve to be in the MVP conversation this season. When those 2 things happened. Still pulling for Christian McCaffrey to get Offensive Player of the Year. I still definitely think, he's probably the front runner for that. And, again, Lamar's probably going to win MVP, but we had a nice run with Brock being up there, and people aren't going to forget that. Like, people aren't going to forget that he was in that conversation, because he did absolutely deserve it.
Yeah. So you already said Offensive Player of the Year, CMC. I can't see it going to anybody else. I know that Tyreek, was pretty close there for a bit. But then he missed a bunch of games towards the end of the season, and I think that totally took him out of it and gave that to CMC. Like you said, MVP, I'm guessing that's going to go to Lamar. What about Defensive Player of the Year? Do you think that goes to Watt, or who do you think gets Defensive Player of the Year this year?
I don't know. Maybe Myles Garrett, if not Watt. It could be. I'm trying to remember who is even like the final, like, the consensus finalists for that.
Because it seems like Myles Garrett, his season kind of fell off at the end too.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had to care about other teams, so kind of hard to answer.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, you think
Stroud?
You think, yeah,
Stroud, but Puka is going to be pretty close too.
Puka had a hell of a season too, man.
Yeah.
I still am sick that we have to go. That he's on the Rams. Defensive rookie of the year. I don't know.
Will Anderson, I think, was like the.
Oh, yeah.
He's on the.
Both are going to be on the Texans.
It could very well be. Yeah.
Both right were on the Jets last year. Offensive rookie and defensive
Yeah,
rookie.
you're right.
Yep. So that'll be cool. Coach of the year. You think D'Amico gets it?
I think D'Amico. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope
Dude, wouldn't
so.
that be crazy if they swept like three awards?
That would be pretty awesome. I love that for D'Amico if he gets it. I really hope. Obviously, Shanahan keeps getting snubbed from it, and now his team I think he's been here too long. He's in the running. He's one of the finalists, but like it seems like they always give it to like first year, second year coaches that turn around a shit team, Yeah, I think other than that, what about Hall of Fame? So I was listening to a space earlier and they announced it's tonight too, right? Yeah, that they announced the finalist for the Hall of Fame. And there was a guy talking in there that's a part of the Hall of Fame voting and all that. And he said, of course, I'm not, because they were in there trying to like, who do you guys think's, going to be the finalist, blah, 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 going back and forth. And he goes, well, of course, I'm not going to, let you guys know who it is. But I will tell you that all these guys, the guys, the finalists are the guys that are getting in. They're all related somehow. So, like, I know there's been a lot of people making the push, and he deserves to be in there, Patrick Willis. And like listening to these people, football fans, of course, they weren't 49ers fans, they're fans of other teams, them talk about it with this guy. It just seemed like other people don't seem to feel that he's that deserving. Like, I don't know. Do you think that this is the year that we see Patrick Willis get in?
I hope so. I mean, he definitely deserves it. I think what hurts him in the eyes of 49er fans, of course we have a bias to it, but for a lot of people, the amount of years that he played does play into it. So had he played longer, he'd definitely probably be considered more of a shoe-in. But yeah, you're gonna have that debate internally of did he play long enough to deserve it. That's the question that most people are gonna have. Although I'd definitely give it to him. But I'm biased.
It's like, how many years? Like, man, it's already been a few years already that he's been eligible. Like,
yeah,
doing our guy dirty. Like, I'm sure, like, you can look at the Hall of Fame, and there's some people in there that if he had been running up against those people, like, he would have been in for sure. Like, there's some strange people in there that I don't know how they got in there. And then then you look at other times and it's like such good guys, like such great football players keep missing out and missing out and missing out year after year and after year. And it's like I know that he didn't play, that long, but I mean, what would have been better, that he would have stayed playing 15 years and the last 5 years he would have played like shit, but yet he would have been in league 15 years, so it made it better? Like, isn't it better to dominate all 9 years or whatever that you're in the league, instead of like falling off and continuing to stay in the league just to have time on your resume? Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't think players even think about that, when they're mulling retirement.
No,
but
of course
yeah,
not. But like to these
just,
voters, like, like I'm just wondering like how they think about this shit,
Yeah, for sure.
Get our guy in there, damn it. Steph, what else? What you got going on? Any closing thoughts? All that good stuff.
Yeah, man, just excited for this game. I have my preview show with Lori Fitzpatrick later tonight. It's gonna be in about an hour 15, but I still got some prep work to do for that one, so I might have to push it back. And I think yeah, that's like my last show, and then tomorrow I'm flying out to Vegas. So stay tuned. I'll be posting some videos from out there all weekend on my YouTube.
Vegas, baby. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming to Vegas. What's up, 49er dude? You finally caught us, but we're on our way out the door, sir. But I appreciate you coming through. Yeah, just make sure that you're subscribe to both channels, Steph 49K and 49 Faithfully. We greatly appreciate it. Steph, I appreciate you. Have a safe trip out here. Everybody that's coming out, traveling, either way, have a safe trip. If you're going to the game, if you're going to a watch party, whatnot, please stay safe. I hope next week, you guys know, the GOATs, you guys are my last show of the week. So next time I do a show and next time I see you guys, we better be Super Bowl champs. Or else I'm going to be here crying and you guys don't want to be seeing that. So you guys better put every good vibe you got out there. We need it. We need all the good vibes. David, if you go to the description box of this video, I have the link to Steph's channel there. So you can just click the link and it'll take you right there, sir. But yeah, chat, we appreciate you guys. You guys have been awesome. You guys are always awesome. Miss Debbie, blessings to you. And yeah, much love. Until next time, fam. We're out of here. Super Bowl champs coming up.
Let's go.
See you, faithful.